Morning, folks. So today is like 6th May 2022. We are in Costa API meeting for IBMCloud. Let's get started. So as usual, we will discuss. Okay, so today we will discuss about release. Release 0.2.1. So release 0.2.1 is got released yesterday. We'll quickly talk about that, and then what we delivered, delivered in last 2 weeks that we will talk, and then backlog. Basically, we'll talk about 0.3 plans, right? Okay, so anything else you guys want to discuss? This is what the agenda for today's meeting. Feel free to add. Yeah, so going to the project page, we just released 0.3 version. I'm sorry, 0.2.1 because I just wanted to start a 0.3 stream because a lot of changes are kind of basically this is mainly just want to maintain a different branch for different Kubernetes version, and then of course with that version we end up even updating the Golang versions and then whatnot. So I thought like this will be the ideal time for creating a new branch. I thought so. That's how I kind of created a 0.2.1 release now. So whatever goes in master now, it is all 0.3 release, right? So that's where I just created another branch saying release 0.2. So now if you want to push anything to 0.2.x, right? I mean, you just need to have, you need to merge the change into main branch, and then you need to cherry pick it to the 0.2 branch. Like for example, we have done one such change yesterday for checking how it goes, right? So basically, I kind of cherry picked one of the README file change, which I initially merged into main branch. So this is a small README fix for the table, and then the meeting invite also, right? And once it got merged into main branch, what I did is I just did this cherry pick. Okay, so there's there's a typo here. Anyway, so the cherry pick, like you have a hyphen in between, and then or you can also, it's also one word anyway. So without hyphen also you can have cherry pick, and then it's actually a branch name where you want to really create a cherry pick. So this is what got created post of like result of that. So which is like merging into release on like hyphen 0.2. So you can just merge it, right? So that's how it works. And of course, I did create bunch of prow job also for this release branch. So because right now our prow jobs are like all tied to the branches, right? So main of course got set of prow jobs. I mean, of course, now it is like more of a like same configuration what we have for main and then release 0.2, but eventually the prow jobs will get updated once we start adopting like latest bits of Kubernetes and then whatnot. So yeah, that's what the idea is. Like if you want to cherry pick anything to be 0.2, so feel free to do the cherry pick and then release to your PRs like post yesterday's mergers, right? Yeah, so that's about the release. What happened yesterday, and so the content wise, like I have just added the main features, what we really added into this, kind of release. I mean, of course, there's one small documentation change also I mentioned just to make sure that it's not really a feature, but just wanted to highlight that documentation change what we pushed. So that's the reason I just mentioned that entry as well. Yeah, so on high level, like we just added like the cloud provider support by Karthik. This is mainly like if you want to deploy a CCM, you can do that via the 0.2.1. So what that really means is that you will have another template in the asset. So this is like the cluster template for which cloud provider. So user can directly just use this template in the field called flavor in cluster CPL, and then they can deploy this template in that like for the Power BI with CCM. So that's the good part that works, right? Yeah, so that's about that, like the cloud provider support, and then this is VPC image. So this is just an sort of the release, sorry, the documentation enhancement added for like using image for VPC. So that's more of the documentation. Another very important, feature got into the release is like for the events recorder. So this is mainly for recording so the failures or successful events into the machines. So that we already discussed in the past. So that's the major feature got into. Another feature is like now you can kind of specify the format IDs in your um, like the controller itself, right? So that's another like I think we already discussed about this change anyway. So now you can supply like a provider ID, whatever for provider ID you want to kind of use, right? So that's not much. So that's and these are the some of the high level features called must be in 0.2.1. So of course there are a lot of other bug fixes and then minor changes mentioned. I haven't mentioned those. Any questions with respect to 0.2.1 release? All right. Yeah, so going back to our regular format, last meeting when we had, okay, so 22nd. So post 22nd, yeah, so not many changes. A bunch of these updates happened, and we kind of enable debug logs for VPC client also now. What this really meant is like it will debug the one API request for the VPC cluster, right? So that's what we enable. So again, this requires like minus v equals to 5. We are supposed to set while start while running the controller. So that options we anyway, so we kind of exposed in other PR. Good. And yeah, I mean, so are you folks like hearing a lot of background disturbance?
Not much, but there is some.
Any better?
Yeah, Manju.
Okay. Yeah, so one of the change one thing is validate machine spec values. Project you want to talk about this quickly?
Yeah, so this was basically to validate some of the spec values that user can pass, right? For example, the memories and the processor values, right? So we wanted to validate that since they are of the type string, that they are in a proper format at the beginning, and webhook can catch some of the issues, right, when passing those. So we are restricting memory values to be integers, and we are restricting the processors to be a floating point value, and in a format that is expected by the Power VS, right? Like they are expecting something of a kind wherein they have maximal of 2 decimal points if it's in a like 0.75 or something, and also integer like if it's a one or one processor or something like that. So we are adding the regex pattern for the same. Okay, so that does the restrictions at the very beginning based on the pattern. So the processor values has to be some kind of a pattern, right? Predefined pattern depending on the regex expression. And even if it passes the regex expression, then we are going ahead and having a function in the webhook itself where we'll check for the what is the minimum value that is being allowed. So we are checking for that and we are expecting the same values. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, this is just to add more sort of proper validation for the values for the spec, right? So that's what we have done. Yeah, this is some minor announcement we have done, and followed by some bunch of housekeeping work. So yeah, one is like yeah, it wasn't showing the version properly in README, so I've just fixed that. Now it shows the version here for the latest release, right? So this shows properly now. So that's what the fix I made in. And I also did another README fix for updating the table also, right? I mean, for example, this is just 0.2. I just want to add main here, so because the main also contains V1 beta 1. So that's what I have done, and then also made some changes to a calendar because now it is like we are meeting bi-weekly. So that I have done, and also kind of updated the community calendar. So what really that means is when it is community calendar, sorry. Oops, a lot of typos. So what I've done is like I have just added added an invite to the calendar invite, I mean the Kubernetes community calendar invite. This will list the entry for our meeting in the community calendar. So if you go here, for example, so this is what the entry for our meeting, right? So you can see, right? So this is the entry for that meeting. Sorry, so oops. So anyone can just go to this calendar and then they can subscribe. So that's what I've done. So if you do it, yeah, so this is what it is. So that change also I have done. And then I added Prajo to a reviewers list. Welcome to the club project. So, yeah, of course, we need more
Thanks.
reviewers. So, yeah, so eventually we'll add a few more folks to the list. But yeah, so. And another quick change went in here basically for registering the error. So this is really in machine spec status, we have something called failure reason and failure message, right? So these are the two specs really meant for, let me just go to that API spec first. For machine types. Yeah, status. So there are a bunch of these three are like main important fields really meant for setting some error, failure reasoning, failure messages, and these messages, these fields are really getting carried forward to the machine API, right? I mean, basically your machine API will handle all these underneath machine, IBM Power Machine or IBM VPC machine, right? So once we can set these messages here, eventually these messages are rolled up to the machine spec. And those messages can be kind of handled in other, can be used in a different other use cases. I'll talk about some of those use cases later, but so what really happens is you can really set, like if something gets failed, you can set this failure reason and then failure message so that your machine spec will have proper error messages set. And that's where like the overall machine status also set, right? I mean, eventually, if you set these messages here, like then your machine will go to error state, right? So otherwise it will not really go to error state. So that's what it is. And these are the different values you can really use in certain format, like the machine health check is another kind of controller what we have in CAPI. So that is really responsible for, let's say, if you want to based on machine status, if machine goes to error state or whatever, and then you just have a kind of action on that, saying that if machine goes in error state, just go and delete it, right? So that's sort of a action we can really write in plus the API is called machine health check. So those are some of the features we can really use, right? I mean, that's the reason I just kind of started exposing these errors. Like I just needed two, methods for setting these fields, and in the controller, I'm just setting these errors. Like whenever there is under Power VS instance state error, so if machine goes to error state while deploying or even after that, so I'm just setting the failure reason based on the message what I get here, and then the update machine error, and then message what we get from the the API itself from Power VS. So that's how your all your API like error message now will be set into your API here in Power VS spec status spec, and eventually these messages will be set in the machine machine spec as well. And post that you can write your own health check, and then you can just define conditions saying that if machine goes to error state, just destroy, kill, or delete the machine. And that is how eventually the machine will be deleted, and then your obvious the affected machine also will get deleted. And post that, of course, with your like the desired count, another machine will spin with the spec, right? So that's where you just always keep your cluster healthy and status. I mean, like healthy, and then maintain the number of nodes you always wanted to be, right? So yeah, this feature is very important. Yeah, this is the one place I've added. So maybe we have to think about if somewhere else we need to add, like in the failure scenarios, we need to add there as well, right? So that's something we can decide soon. So this is just the beginning. Any questions on this feature? Yeah, so one of the point is like this will be a useful Amula in our ETE test cases, right? So in case if you want to have like a health check, if you want to add a health check saying that if PM goes, kind of error state while deployed. So maybe if you just have a machine health check, and then maybe it'll just delete that PM. Right, so if machine goes into error state, so maybe in the next subsequent calls it may just pass, right? So the creation may happen. So I'm not sure how it is going to work in ETE, but this is. But there are some challenges, is what I felt while testing. So yeah, I mean the challenges are like sometimes even it is just deleting the healthy nodes also. I'm not sure why it is doing that. I think we just need to explore. So maybe adding health check for VS and then see how it behaves, right? So I think we just need to have more test cases, and some handling is to be done there as well. Yeah, that's the reason I just kept this ticket still open. So I handle error obvious machine properly. So I part of this I just added these error messages, but we also want to test this machine health check, and then how the entire see how this cluster behaves and all. Any questions or anything anyone else wants to add? All right, so that's about the changes went in last 2 weeks, and we'll go to open PRs. There are a bunch of PRs I am keeping on hold because I am still waiting for Cluster API to release or merge a PR with using 1.25 release. That's not really their field. So last time I checked, I think there are. Okay, so just let me quickly check. Just give me a minute. Yeah, there is this one task they have created for cluster API for 1.24. Oh well, yeah, this is 1.24, right? I was saying 1.25. All right, so this is 1.24. Sorry. Yeah, 1.24. They have created a bunch of tasks for tracking this. So still there are a bunch of tasks open, and one of them is a cluster API Go mod update for, well, not this one. Let's see. What's that? Anyway, so I think eventually, yeah, they'll have to merge the 0.24 changes in the cluster API that is pending. So once they finish this task, so we going to merge some of these changes, but I don't think we are going to merge these part changes. We have to have some manual changes to ensure that we just fix or update everything in one shot. So I just created one story for our repository also, that we will have to update Golang, we'll have to update cluster API, we'll have to update CoMod with all the latest changes. And also we need to update ProJob with the latest Kubernetes image there as well. So let's see. Yeah, so that's about these open PRs. But this one we can merge. Not sure why maybe I just got confused with other PRs. This can be merged. This is nothing to do with Kubernetes versions. And expose additional spec params. Project, you got any chance to fix this? Or you need some more time?
No, Anju, I'll fix it today. Yeah, I just saw it yesterday. I'll fix it today. Yeah.
Right. That's about open PRs. And then, yeah, so here's some of the issues what we have. And then I created a milestone for 0.3. And I just added whatever I could think of. But we can add more to it, right? So let me see if anything we don't have milestones. Okay, so this needs to be part of 0.3. And this also to be part of 0.3. Okay, so we'll quickly talk about the issues we created in last maybe 15 days. Yeah, code coverage for UT. Yeah, so this one we have created. I think this we discussed already last time only. Handle region mapping properly. What's this? Oh yeah, so this is something in voice or your CTLs we are using, and then yeah, this is some sort of switch case we have for mapping zones to region or whatever. I think this is not really required anymore, is what I felt, because the obvious client itself is not really. They made region as optional parameter now. We'll have to explore that. I think we'll have to see if we can get rid of this whole mapping stuff. That's something we need to explore and see. We can just stop using this utility in forward. And this one we already discussed, the error one. So you need to explore health checks. So anyone wants to pick up this one?
I can do that, Manju. Like, yeah, once some of my bandwidth is cleared, I'm happy to work on
Okay. Yeah, because you have a lot of other work and so forth.
it.
You
Yeah,
probably sure just
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I'm interested as of now, so but not sure about the bandwidth.
Even I
Oh
can
yeah.
explore on that, Manju. No issue.
Yeah, maybe that'll be helpful, I think, because I'll just assign to Prajot this one because Samula, you have a lot of other things to
Yeah,
work.
yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Alright. And set up prerequisite for running unit tests. Yeah, I just created this yesterday while testing. I figured out that yeah, it does require all this cube builder stuff, but something we need to enhance for sure, right? I mean, I just did something my own and it all worked fine. But I think so. There are other providers. They're using some sort of a tool for setting up this queue builder stuff. Maybe we had to use that here, right? Because if someone just runs make test, it just fails with some weird errors. We don't know what these errors sometimes, right? I think we'll have to fix this. So for better setting this stuff like Amelia, I just assigned to you. I'm not sure if you want to do it or project you have any bandwidth to explore this.
I'm okay with it. Like, I mean, anything is fine.
Yeah, I think Manju, for this mostly we'll have to add a document or something before someone gets started with that.
Well, not really. Like at the moment, see documentation. Ultimately it just need the queue builder stuff, right? So I think there is some
Yeah, yeah. So I'll add it
we
as a part of the make file, like to download those prerequisites, right?
yeah. I mean, see some of the other providers they are using some tool for this, like say for setting up the cloud builder and all that. Maybe you can explore how AWS cluster API is doing. So
Okay,
yeah, we
okay.
can maybe we can. Yeah, and I don't want to do everything part of the make file enhancement, right? Because that becomes too much. um,
I'll check on that,
so
Manju. I'll check with the AWS. Yeah, this.
yeah, maybe you just see if you can. I'll just assign to Prajot. All right. And enhance the unit test coverage. I just yesterday got a chance to. Okay, so we talked about this. Okay, so unit test coverage, right? So I just checked in my goal hand, and then the coverage is pretty bad. I mean, like we stand at 14% at the moment, and then we are not. We're just covering 50% of the file. But I'm not really worried about the percent of files, but this percentage is really worrisome. So, I mean, like 14% is too low. uh, yeah, definitely we had to have a plan for enhancing the entire unit test coverage. So that's the reason I just created this particular no, not task for this. Not necessarily this needs to be done. Just you both should own this, and then we'll have to have a plan for covering as much as possible. So yeah, 60 to 70% is the 80% is the ideal, but anything more than 60, 70, close to 80 is like good, right? So I'm talking about the statements, not the files, right? So yeah, let's start getting something. Yeah, so let's focus on getting the unit test cases settled, I mean, like properly covered for this 0.3 release. Let's focus on getting the stability and then unit test cases, and then whatever test will maybe we'll call 0.3 as testing, right? I mean, let's focus on getting everything. Uh, uh, let's focus on the unit tests and then tests or whatever stuff. Yeah. Any questions or anything anyone wants to add?
Yeah,
do
Manju.
we-
So,
Mhm.
sorry, yeah. So yesterday I was mentioning about like, so for this, you're adding unit test for the VPC side requires mocking and that internally require refactoring. So when do you think that should go in? Because you mentioned we need to wait a little bit time for merging the Kubernetes bits.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was just waiting for 0.2 release to be done. I think now we are good time, and like
Oh,
but this
okay.
is not really affecting this year, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, let's get started. So
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll place that.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. So let's get started, and then yeah, don't close this entire ticket by one or two tasks. Let's ensure, like, if you want to have something like maybe list of checklist or something like that, you can feel free to kind of tag those things here in this. Let's keep this as an umbrella sort of issue, right? Where we'll close this issue once we have the percentage covered, like maybe approximately 70% or something like that. More than, of course, 60-70%. Once we reach like 70, we can close this issue, but don't really close until we hit that count. Yeah, that's what the expectation, right? And there is
Oh,
another, yeah.
just one more thing for the unit test, right? So when I was looking at the some of the controller tests that we had, and as we said that we are using the Jinko version, right? Thing. So
Mhm,
I checked with the other AWS and all those stuff as we discussed on the previous Scrum call, right? So they
mhm,
are using the normal approach rather than the Jinko version of it, right? And the reason is that they have mentioned is that it's just because they want to keep it in sync with the what is the flow that cluster API is using, right? So they wanted to
mhm,
follow the same fashion, so they are doing that. But while doing those changes yesterday, right? So I was just trying to convert them back to the normal version, right? How they have it. What I realized was even the setup functions, right? So that will need to change, right? Like since we are having testing environment kind of thing, right? So while testing the controllers, we basically expect a test environment to run and replicate those behaviors, right? So
mhm,
if we are moving away from that approach, that the current approach to the one which they are using, right? Like having individual functions for everything and not the Jinko version of the code, right? Like with all those contexts and all things. So then even the
mhm.
set, even I think we'll have to redo on the setup function itself, like how we could create a test environment and how we then tear down that test environment, all those things. So that approach will also change, right?
Yeah, maybe, yeah, we'll do that. So maybe what I would say, like, we just start working on that, explore maybe, and then maybe we can just go through once, understanding like the entire thing, like what we really, how we really want to approach, right? So then we'll discuss on that, and then eventually we'll take a call and then implement whatever is feasible and then makes sense for the entire project, right? So if yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Jinko for unit test cases, right? I mean, unit test cases are really meant for like the code and then everything. So I agree for Jinko test for the E to E, because that's where you have more of some of the things can be used effectively in end-to-end test cases. Not sure how other folks like, are they still having the Jinko for end-to-end test cases, or even for that also they don't really have.
No,
Uh,
Anju. Like most of them have changed like to the older version, like the how they had it previously, like single ones.
okay. All right. So let's get started with unit test cases first. Then we'll think about the rest of the things later. Right?
Okay. Ma'am.
Yeah. So, but ultimately, yeah, the goal is we have to have higher number of percentage here. And second thing is like, in we just use whatever cluster API and the other folks are doing. So let's not completely do it in a different way. And then that will become really difficult going forward if you want to maintain something or if you want to reuse something from cluster API or something like that, it becomes really pain, right? So I'm okay with taking approach with the other provider or cluster API. All right. Anything else anyone should discuss about this too? Okay, so then I'll move to the next one. So this is just a doc chain. So in the document, what we have mentioned is the from. Let's not really do that. This requires your Git cloning and all, which is not really needed. So once we kind of have the controllers deployed, as in your all your controllers deployed from Plus API, so all that you can just use the flavor because the customers are going to use the released version anyway, or users are going to use the released version. So for that, they don't have to kind of clone the code and then use the template which is here, right? So the cluster CTL itself can got a flavor, option for specifying the which template you really want to use. So in this case, it can be it will become like flavor equals to Power VS or something like that. So then it will pull this Power VS from the release artifacts and then just use that, right? So otherwise, the user will end up cloning the code and then they always use the latest ones, which is not really a good habit. So let's stick to maybe modifying this a bit. So I just need volunteers. So who can just test it and then fix this small documentation change?
I can do that, Manju. Yeah. This is not
All right. So yeah, and make sure you just do it for both VPC and then obvious.
yeah, sure.
Right, so this is one, and adaptators will that I'll maybe handle it. Need some more time for that. All right, so that's for the new task, and there are a bunch of other old tasks also. I think we already have for 9:45. Yeah, so I think we'll have to have a separate discussion for looking at these other next milestone tasks and then understand which one really we can pick up for on this release. Yeah, that's something we can explore. Uh, so this one, code coverage for UT. So this one we need to do it. And Bhaskars thing, I just want to do it in the 0.3 as well. Not sure, but I'll just, we already started working on it. Maybe I think let's do it for 0.3. And how about this one, Amulya?
Yeah, I think we can. We can do it.
Okay. Yeah, remaining thing, guys, just go through it and then see what can we pick up like for this reason. I think so. If something, maybe we'll take a look at it. So I think we'll take a step next time, or offline also we can discuss some of the issues. All right, so that's about that. And I see a lot of tasks assigned on that. Right, so anything else to discuss apart from this?
Yeah, Manju, this test cluster seal upgrade flow, I mean, can it be closed, or I just mentioned that it can be like, is there something else that we need to check?
Yeah, so yeah, I think the testing part is done. If we need to have some automated tests, like part of it, maybe we can get another task. Right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, just close this as of now. But how often other books are running? So do they run like
The upgrade test.
yeah?
Yeah, I think it's running as a part of the E2E test itself. So often it's like frequently itself.
Okay. Okay. So anything else, folks? All right. Thank you. In that case, we'll meet again in next couple of weeks. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Manju.